Okay, hi everybody. I'm gonna go over your first lab so that everyone's really clear on how to download and use R. Um, our statistical software is what all ecologists use to analyze their data. It is super important if you're going to go on to graduate school, but also it's important to other fields as well. Additionally, it will make your life easier if you can learn how to use R appropriately. You'll be able to use it for all kinds of things in your other classes. So I'm just going to start by walking through your lab really quickly. The first lab, basically what we're doing is we're getting you going in R. So we're going to download our statistical software and then an interface called RStudio. And there are lots of instructions. I put them up on the website. So you're looking at Welcome to R. This is kind of the first part, the first tutorial in your lab to get you up and rolling. But all you really have to do is go to these websites, download the packages, download R and RStudio, and then just follow the instructions. So that part is super easy. I put this optional setup on there. Some people like the way that the RStudio is set up, just generally, but you can move your different panes around just to a configuration that you like, but you don't have to do that at all. But I also wanted to include this just because it walks through some of the kind of critical panes that we use in R. But we'll kind of do a tour of this as we go ahead and get started. So I'm going to assume, please pause the video or whatever, get your RStudio and everything downloaded, your R and your RStudio. And then I'd like you to go ahead and create a folder on your desktop. And we want to call that folder Ecology Lab. And I'm just doing this. You could actually call the folder anything that you want, but I just want you to have a similar name so that when we're talking about it, we can see a similar thing from both points of view of our screen. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna download the R file and this data file, which is just a dummy data set that we can use to practice importing things into R. So we're going to download both of those things. I'm going to stop sharing and show you how I create a folder. Everyone knows how to do this, I think. But let me see here. I'm going to just share my general laptop with you, the desktop. So all I'm going to do is go onto my desktop, create a folder called Ecology Lab. Ecology, just like how you see it in the tutorial. Then I will grab my downloads. So for Macs, I'm using a Mac, so I'm sorry I can't demo all this from a PC perspective, but it's going to be very, very similar. I'm just going to move my downloads right into my R folder. Okay, that I've created for this class. And the reason I'm having you create a folder is you can have all of your work for lab like right in this folder. Once we set up a working directory, which we'll talk about in a second, you can easily copy and paste that working directory onto all of your different scripts, and then you can be importing and exporting data into and out of this file. So it makes it super easy because instead of what we do is we create these things called R scripts, which we're going to look at in just a second, but then it's super easy to redo anything. You can make adjustments, you can add in data, everything is right there. It actually makes your life so much easier when you're dealing with data to be working in something like R. Okay, so we have our downloads. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to give our Ecology Lab folder. I'm going to go back into RStudio and share that screen with you. So let me share the RStudio screen. Share. Okay, and let's just take a look at what we're looking at here. So up here, we have what's called our environments, and that is just going to be objects that we create in R. So R is an object-oriented coding program. So you basically create these data sets, they have names, those objects are shown to you here. This is kind of, for me, the least important pane. I use it when my coding gets complex and I need to think things through. But for the most part, it's kind of it's there and you don't really pay a lot of attention to it. Over here, this is the kind of nice thing about the RStudio setup. You have a lot of different panes and panels that can help you automate using that basically act as an interface so that you can easily do things like import files, more like you're working in something like Excel or something like that. But I'm going to kind of show you two ways of doing things because I prefer to have everything embedded in my code. That makes it super, super easy, but we're just going to walk through how to do both. Here is your console. This is really important. For some reason, my little guy is not showing. So there you go. This is where we're going to upload our script. So in a second, I'm going to show you just how to open an R script. And down here is where we're actually typing and writing things. This is the console. This is where you're going to be entering in code. You can do that. It'll be giving you output here. But a lot of times we're also kind of working directly off of our script. So you're going to see all of that in just a second. Okay. So here we go. First things first, I am going to open the R document that we talked about. So I'm going to go to my ecology lab folder and I have it set up so that the default to open R files is RStudio. So I just can click and open the file just like that. The other thing you can do is go up to your RStudio panel, kind of like up in the corner, like across the banner for me, and go to File, Open File, and then you're able just to navigate to to my desktop and to the R folder, oops, Ecology Lab, and then open it. So you have two ways of doing it, kind of like a file automated way, or you can just click on it. Sometimes you have to tell your computer that the default program to open that file is RStudio. So once we have it open, you can see that this is our R script. And we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to load what is called a package. So the cool thing is that all of these designers across the internet are making these things called packages, and they can do almost anything for you. They are full of these scripts that you can run, and it will do all kinds of statistical analysis or other cool things. And so we use these a lot in R. And I'm just going to show you two different ways of installing packages. First, you can use the kind of automated interface way, which is to go to this pane here, and you can click on packages and click on the install button. And today I'm hoping that you can install tidyverse. So you would just type in tidyverse, you see it, it comes up, and then you click install. And you can tell something's happening down here because it's installing at the base. It's telling me what's going on. You're always going to want to install dependencies if it gives you that option. Dependencies are just other packages that this package uses to be able to do what it's supposed to do. Tidyverse is a super useful one. Probably all colleges use this. It's basically for data organization and wrangling. So it's a really common one to use in your work. So the other thing you can do to install a library is just to run this code, install packages. So I prefer this. This is what I usually do. And all you have to do is put your cursor somewhere on that line of code and go right up here to this button and hit run. And it does the same thing. Now, once you have installed a package, that's great. You never have to do it again. So what I'll often do is I'll often put a hashtag in front of the install packages thing so it doesn't do it each time. And hashtag for computers is just telling that particular program, do not read this line. So now it's basically invisible to R and RStudio. So that's one thing you can do. To save changes, just so you know, you just go right up here to the save function, and that's easy. Now, your libraries will need to be loaded every time you use R. So to do that, again, you just use this code, this function, library, and in this case, it has the title tidyverse. That's the package we want to load. And once again, you just go to run. Again, I prefer doing it this way. Now, there is a secondary way, and you can use this GUI interface over here. And you just look, these are all the packages I actually have on my computer, which is a little bit intense, but I do a lot of work in R. So I would go and I would find the tidyverse package, and right now you can see it's actually loaded, but all you have to do is click that box, and then that loads the package. So we're not going to be using a lot of different packages in this class, but it's a good tool to know how to use. And I just wanted you to understand that you install the packages once, and then you have to load them every time you use them. Okay, so here is another thing. You can import data files just simply by going up to the banner, which let me just show you since let me show you my whole screen here. This is just like any other computer program that you have. You can, where's desktop? Okay, there we go. Desktop, share. You can simply go up here to this RStudio panel, and you can say something like file, import data set from text, and you can basically pull in a data file. But that is never the way I import data into R. The other way to do it, I'm sorry, just to show you a multitude of different ways. Let me stop the share and let me share again with just the RStudio so you can see a little bit better. Okay, the other thing you can do is right here, import data set. Again, you can see this is the same format. So you can just go and you just use this and any other way that you would import something, and you just go ahead and import your data. But that is not the way I like to do it. The easier, by far the easier way, so you don't have to think about anything other than opening the correct R script, is to do something called set a working directory and then tell your R where to go to import your data. So again, I'm going to walk through how you set your working directory for a Mac, but PC users just follow the PC instructions. So it's really, really not hard to do at all. Okay, so here's the code for setting your working directory. But what we need to do is figure out where we're actually sending information to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the file I set up right here on the desktop. I'm going to go to this file over here. I'm going to click on one of my files. Sorry, I'm going to right click on one of my files, and I'm going to go down to get info. So remember, this is the ecology lab folder that I put in. This is the your data file that we downloaded. And so you'll see right here that there's this section called where. All you do is you highlight that section called where, and you right click again and copy as path name. Yay, awesome. Okay, now we have the information that we need to be able to set our working directory. What we do is we just then plunk this code right in there, just like that. For me, and let's give it a try because I think there's something a little bit funky with this that I want to be able to point out. So I'm going to set the working directory, run it. And you can see when something works down here, because when I ran set working directory, see, it worked. It was blue. So if there's something wrong, there will be an error code that is thrown and things will be red and kind of crazy. But this obviously worked. So now I know that I have my data file in there. It is labeled yourdata.csv. Notice that this is called yourdata.csv, right? So it's named the appropriate thing. And now I just simply import it. I hope this is sharing. Let me one more time share so that you can see a little bit better on the actual RStudio page. Share. Okay. So we're gonna try this. And it successfully reads in my data. So now we can look at what that data looks like. So all we have to do to kind of check it out is to type in the word my data, because basically what this code says is get this data from this folder, get this file from this folder, and put it into an object called my data. And then I also want you to look up here see how there's this object called my data? That's the thing I was talking about with that whole environment panel. So you can see what objects you've loaded. So if you're like, oh, where are my data in? You can say, oh, yes, there they are. There's my data. And then you can either type in my data like I did just a second ago, or just hit run. And you can see what there is, what this data set consists of. So this has 2 columns. There's one column called welcome to R, and it just has all 7s down it. So it's silly. It's just an example data set. So that is how you set your working directory and upload upload data. So now you have this object in here, and in theory, we could do a bunch of different things to it. We're not going to do those things today. Instead, I'm going to show you now how to export something from R. So let's just re-export the same file. So we don't care. We're just going to say, I now want to I'm going to export this data file. And so we're going to just replace in this part of the code that information. See what's called your object to export. That means you tell it what to export. So you put that object in right there. And if you export it just like this is what your file name will be named. So we can do it just to play around, but you can also change the file name to my data. Woo. Okay. And let's just once again run that code. Now let's check our folder. Go ahead and check the folder right over here. And look, lo and behold, there is my data. It's right there. So that is the kind of simple, easy peasy way of manipulating, of basically setting up an R file. So these are all things that if I were going to start getting folks to work with data, I would make sure that they always have the libraries that they're going to load listed on their R file. Let me once again share my R screen so you can see. I would have them always have their libraries they're gonna load, always set their working directory, always set this path name to their data. And then basically it's all set up. If you have to go in, correct something, change a data file, all you have to do is open this and run it all, and it automatically knows where to go. And it just makes your life so easy. So you're going to see I provide you with data scripts throughout the semester. The big things you're going to need to know how to do are just to adjust this working directory. Now, I've heard my PhD advisor would always say that computers are high-speed idiots, but they're always right. And it's kind of true. So the thing is it's very, very, very easy to mess up just a little thing anywhere. And it only sees, it is just strictly reading this for information. So for instance, if I wanted to set a working directory and I accidentally put a P right there, notice what happens when I run my code. No such working directory. Uh-oh, that's crazy, right? So one thing I suggest is having a good way, being able to look at code and figure it out is awesome. And you'll get there. The more you work with it, the more all of this will make intuitive sense and you'll start to be able to error check. But another thing that I would suggest doing is using ChatGPT or another AI in order to go over your code and correct your code when you're having issues. So we will use this also in class for error checking your manuscript. But all of these open AI systems are super easy to use, and it makes it very intuitive to be able to error check your code. So I will provide links for different AI systems that you can use, but when you have that installed and ready to go, all you would have to do is do something like, I would copy this code that's not working into the AI system and say, for some reason my file isn't loading, can you help me troubleshoot this? And in theory, the AI will help you walk through that process. And it is better at detecting those kind of small insignificant errors that the human mind tends to skip over. And it's a really awesome resource for being able to use with R. So with that, that's how you set up your R and R Studio, how you set your working directories, how you load libraries, and how you import and export data. These are all skills that will serve you well for the rest of the semester.